breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm up, Lovey Low. Welcome to Lovey Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSIN Family Podcast. We've got a great podcast for you, as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by a good friend of ours, Ben Wilson, who does amazing work here at the network. He does a great job taking a look at baseball, both on the college and the pro front, as he does a lot of college baseball play-by-play work. Additionally, I know he does great work with indoor football as well. We're going to be talking about, since we're both from the great state of Wisconsin, a lot of the NL Central race. We're going to be talking about the Brewers, the hot streak that they've gotten on, and we're also going to talk about how historically bad the Rockies are. Shout out to them for winning on Monday. 10th win of the season, and we're in June. That's very strange, but, we're going to be chatting about that and so much more. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday, as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you, for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, there's naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Otherwise, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via the 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions, but everything is powered by Edge Boost. Edge Boost, make sure that bettors are able to have all of their gambling-related transactions approved. You're able to get cashback rewards when you utilize Edge Boost, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, type in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Monday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Somehow, someway, the Colorado Rockies get the job done by a count of 6-4, and this was after they actually trailed by a count of 4-1 in this game, but they were able to get a pair of home runs off the bat of Hunter Goodman for Goodman. Home runs number 8 and 9 of the campaign, and Germán Marquez, he gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, but all were in the first 2 innings. From there, he calms down Jake Bird, Tyler Kinley, Seth Halverson, and Zach Ognos, all able to end a scoreless inning. And for Miami, Max Meyer did not have it. 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, give it up in 5 innings, including those home runs to Goodman. You had Valentin Beloso from there, not pitched like a bozo, 1 run allowed in 3 innings. Jesus Tinoco, a scoreless inning, but Marlins just simply could not get to that bullpen, so that was a bit of an issue. The Boston Red Sox have been an issue ever since Alex Bregman went out of the fold. I think that they've won just once ever since then. They're now 29-33 as the Angels get a 7-6 win as they played home run derby off of Mr. Richard Fitz. Fitz gives up a home run to Mike Trout, 10th home run of the season. Joe Adell gets his 8th home run of the season. Zach Neto is 10th, and then once again for Adell off of Hunter Dobbins, his 9th home run of the season. Now, Hunter Dobbins very good in long relief. He gives up 1 run in 5 innings. For Fitz, 6 runs, 5 of which were earned in his inning of work. From there, you had Luis Garcia give you 2 scoreless innings, Nick Birdie, a scoreless inning of his own, and then for the LA Angels, you had Tyler Anderson get lit up. 5 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings. Guy was very much due him for regression, but Hunter Strickland from there. Pair of outs out of the bullpen. Reed Detmers, Ryan Zephyr, Kenley Jansen, all end a scoreless inning, and Hector Neris does allow a home run to Ceddanne Rafaela, 4th home run of the season, but it was a solo shot. For the Detroit Tigers, they absolutely pound the tar out of the Chicago White Sox. 13-1 the final, as Detroit at 40-21 have the best record in the American League, and they played some home run derby themselves. How about Gary Carpenter going deep 3 times as he gets home runs number 11, 12, and 13 of the campaign. Dylan Dingler goes deep for his 6th home run season, and Wencio Perez his 2nd. As for Jonathan Cannon, he allowed 3 home runs to 3 different hitters, 5 runs in total over the course of 3 innings, and then Bryce Wilson was just left out there to die. He goes 5 innings, gives up 12 hits, 8 runs, all of which were earned, including a pair of Gary Carpenter bombs. From there, you had Vinny Capra be able to give you a scoreless inning. That's a position player, and for Detroit, Captain Jack Flaherty, pretty dominant. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. You had John Brebbia from there give you a scoreless inning, and Dylan Smith, MLB debut, he lends 2 scoreless innings. The Milwaukee Brewers win streak, that is now up to 8 games as they take down the Cincinnati Reds by a count of 3-2. This game was 3-2 in the top of the 3rd inning, and there would be no scoring from there. Aaron Savali gives up a pair of runs in the 1st inning, but he holds it down for 5 1/3 innings. Having given up those 2 runs, Rob Zanoski, he gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Jared Koenig, Ebner Uribe, Trevor McGill, all under scoreless inning. And then for the Cincinnati Reds, Brady Singer, he was singing the blues, giving up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a home run. Going deep for the Brewers, Christian Yelich, his 13th home run of the campaign. From there, the bullpen was solid. Ian Gabot and Taylor Rogers combined for 2 scoreless innings. Scott Barlow, Brent Suter, they both ended scoreless inning, but too little too late for the Cincinnati Reds. In the nightcap, you saw the LA Dodgers lose to the New York Metropolitans, this by a count of 4-3, back-to-back losses at home for the Dodgers, by the way, as for Los Angeles, pretty solid start out of Dustin May. Gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, does allow a home run to Francisco Lindor, 14th home run of the campaign, and for Paul Blackburn, first start of the season looked very good. 5 scoreless innings. Oscar Zobin, Ryan Stanek both led a scoreless inning. Max Chronic allowed a sole run in his inning of work as Shohei Ohtani, 23rd home run of the season. Edwin Diaz had a chance to be able to get a save in this one. He gives up a run in the 9th inning before you had Jose Castillo give up an earned run in the 10th, but Jose Buto gets the final 2 outs to be able to get that save. And for the LA Dodgers out of the bullpen, you had Jack Dreyer give 2 scoreless innings, Lou Trevino a scoreless inning, but Tanner Scott, 2 runs, one of which was earned in that 10th inning. So the Mets, they do find a way to persevere, and also being able to find a way to persevere, another over out there in Sacramento, as the Sacramento overs have been the best home overs in all baseball. As in Sacramento, now you've got 19 overs to 10 unders this far this season, and for the Minnesota Twins, they were able to persevere. They do find a way to square this one away by kind of 10-4. For Joe Ryan, he gives up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings, does allow a home run to Lawrence Butler, 9th home run season. From there, Brock and Roll Stewart, Louis Varland, Justin Topa, Cody Funderburk, all under scoreless inning, and Luis Severino just getting destroyed at home. 8 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Hogan Harris, a scoreless inning. You did have 1 run given up in an inning by Sean Newcomb, and then 4 outs out of the bullpen. Elvis Alvarado gives up a run of his own, and then you also did see a nice W to wrap up the night from the San Diego Padres, 1-0. They go on the road. They take it to the San Francisco Giants. Logan Webb did his part, 8 scoreless innings. Randy Rodriguez, a scoreless inning. Ryan Walker, an earned run, give it up in the 10th, but Stephen Kulik was on it, 5 2/3 innings scoreless. Adrian Morejon, along with Jason Adam, led a scoreless inning. Jeremiah Stratton out of the bullpen, and then Robert Suarez, scoreless 9th and 10th innings. If you're taking a look trend-wise at what we're getting in baseball right now, has been a very much underwhelming season, as the under is hitting at 53.3%, 454 unders, 397 overs. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the favorites on the money line, hitting at about 58.2%, 513 and 369, and overall for favorites over the last 7 days, it's been a little bit hit or miss for them. 48 and 38 on the money line, more around 55.8%, and the under is actually having a little bit of a tough go of it. 43 overs to 42 unders, so, we've seen a few more overs than unders, so that's what we're getting in baseball right now. That's what we all saw on Monday. Now let's take a look at the NL Central, and how to fade the Colorado Rockies with our good friend Ben Wilson here at VSIN next, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSIN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSIN Family Podcast, and it's always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Ben Wilson aboard. He does such an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball over here at VSIN. I know that he's our 5-tool player. He does a little bit of everything on the weekends with our live betting shows. You saw him cash in out a few nights ago as well. Additionally, he's one of the best play-by-play voices that you're going to hear, whether that be college baseball, whether that be college basketball, indoor football, you name it. He does it. You're able to follow him on Twitter/X at his first and last name, Ben. You've got an underscore after that, his last name, Wilson, and then an underscore and the number 1 all together. And Ben, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Greg Peterson, always a pleasure, man. This has been a great stretch now that we're into June. Got college baseball postseason, which has been a lot of fun for me to cover. And the Milwaukee Brewers, our home state team, finally decided to start playing. Will it sustain? I don't know, but it's at least nice to watch some fun, entertaining baseball,
Oh, it certainly is, as they were able to go on a 7-game win streak prior to Monday. We're doing this before the Monday game finish up, so we don't know if that went to 8 games or not. But what has been your biggest takeaways from the Brewers over this 7-game win streak? Because it feels like it's all been based on Christian Yelich starting to pick it up and giving the team a little bit more than he did towards the beginning part of the season.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's been twofold. You've also gotten a little bit healthier now on the pitching side of it. Certainly, yes. And I think we talked about it, Greg, last time you and I were together was, you could not continue as much as we all knew Christian Yelich would not be coming back or coming close to his previous MVP form of, at this point now, 7-8 years ago. you at least couldn't have him anchoring your lineup in a lineup that's already been a little lackluster as far as depth goes. He couldn't be hitting 190 all year, and that finally started to pick up, which is certainly a great sign. At the same time, I mean, you look at even the advanced numbers, though, still for the team aren't all that impressive. And so it's not like this had been coming, right, for an extended period of time. I mean, even just pull up the last, week stats on the Milwaukee hitting side of it. They are still bottom 10 in barrel rate. They're sub 7%. So some of this, I don't want to overreact and say like, okay, this is a turning point. Now they all of a sudden they're going to be this team that's going to threaten the Cubs for the division lead. In the last 7 games, which again, Milwaukee's won every single one of them, Greg, Milwaukee is 29th in hard hit percentage. So I always look at those two things very much hand in hand. And that's where I do wonder how much of this is just a mirage. What I think to be the bigger thing, and this is helpful on the pitching side, is Jose Quintana's now back off the IL. He had a rough first inning against Philadelphia, but after that really settled in. And I've been on Quintana. He's like this year's Wade Miley. You just keep going down the line of these old veteran on their back 9 career pitchers from Milwaukee. They always seem to have one of them a year that shows out and pitches really well. And I'm in the firm camp of believing now that you have Quintana back healthy, that's huge for a rotation that's had some holes in it this year. That to me is a bigger thing than this brief offensive blip that I'm not so sure is generally sustainable for them.
Yep, I agree with you there. And it's been really interesting to see what we've gotten out of the starting pitching because I love the fact that they gave Logan Henderson a few opportunities as well. We'll see if he's going to get any more moving forward. But he's been rock solid for the Milwaukee Brewers. We've been seeing Chad Patrick come up as well. And the biggest takeaway I've had with Brewers over the last few seasons is that it just feels like at the AAA level for the Sounds, they do such a great job of coaching these guys up.
Yeah, they do. You give a lot of credit to Chris Hook, the pitching coach. I've always been impressed with how they really work hard at developing the off speed. And you think about specific names and the guys they have. Still, this is a starting pitching staff that for all the issues, for all the holes and the injuries, they're still 6th on the season in general Major League ERA. I mean, that is super impressive. As much as ERA is not the be-all, end-all. But on top of getting Quintana back, you have Aaron Savali back in the fold now. Quinn Priester, for as inconsistent as he's been, at least they're giving him more of a consistent role for a guy that wasn't even in the organization until the season started. So you combine all that, there's reason for optimism. The other one that really stands out, Greg, I don't know what you've made of his arc, but Abner Uribe as a setup guy. I mean, this guy was all over the place, super erratic. I felt like you could not trust him whatsoever. Guy's always been able to throw 100, 101, but it was the control that was just nowhere. I don't know what has happened to Uribe, but he suddenly looks way more in control, just so much more confident. And a guy I have a lot of trust in going forward, 159 ERA, striking out almost 12 per 9. So that's been a really nice piece of development that the Brewers were desperate to get when you lose a guy like Devin Williams anchoring your bullpen.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a guy in Uribe that you're able to utilize him for multiple innings if needed as well. He's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife gadget guy in the bullpen, so I've been loving that as well as we do have Ben Wilson who does great work here at VSiN joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And for the Brewers, it is really interesting to take a look at that pitching. And for the Brewers, it's also going to be very fascinating to see what we get out of them on Tuesday as well, because we're doing this as we don't know how the Monday result turned out. But on Tuesday for the Milwaukee Brewers, they are going to be throwing out there Freddie Peralta against Hunter Green. And I think that this is a little bit of a rubber meets the road game because you mentioned it with the Brewers. They're still down with regards to hard hit percentage. It's not a team that's necessarily cranking out the deep ball. They do a great job of stealing bases, though. And going against a guy in Hunter Green, I think that that's going to be a good litmus test of what to expect moving forward. And if I'm calling it what it is, Freddie Peralta, even though his ERA has been low, I've had some concerns with him with his swing and miss stuff being a little bit down. And it feels like sometimes he can be very inconsistent.
He's really had to labor. I mean, the last start, you're watching it, he goes 5 innings and it felt like just watching it, you felt like he'd thrown, he was at 100 pitches early in the 5th inning. Like, it's just not a guy who's been very efficient. And sometimes you see pitchers who have high strikeout rates and that naturally means deeper counts. So you worry about the pitch counts getting up. But like you pointed out, Greg, that hasn't actually been the issue for Peralta. He's actually striking out. This is the lowest strikeout rate of his career, which is still good. It's still a strikeout per inning, 9 per 9, but he's never been shy of double digits. He was 9.92 a few years ago, but by and large, this has always been a guy who's missed a ton of bats, and it isn't really happening. And honestly, he's gotten away with being somebody who is stranding a ton of guys, career high strand rate at over 85%. You don't expect that to continue. Batting average on balls in play is super low. It's the lowest it's been since he was a rookie in 2018. That 2.77 ERA, kind of like the recent 7-game span with the hitting, feels like a little bit of a mirage. And you definitely think that kind of has the feel of in a game where I'm seeing them overnight minus 115, minus 120. I'd probably more look at some Hunter Green props specifically in that game just because the Reds offense has been so untrustworthy all year. But feels like a game where Green racks up the strikeouts. And Peralta's got to start stacking some outings where he can get through 6 on 90 pitches and not be so stress-filled early in games. He's a guy you're relying on to pitch 200-plus innings. He's not the rookie who's a third, fourth starter anymore. Like, he's a true workhorse, and Milwaukee's going to need him to find a little bit more efficiency to get that second wind as the season goes on.
No question about it. That is going to be big for the Spurs team moving forward. And what else is going to be big is just what's going to be playing on the division in general, because the team that they're facing off against, the Cincinnati Reds, they've been right around 500 all season long, a game or two up or down of that. But you mentioned it with the Chicago Cubs. Right now, they're number 1 in the division. They're going to be facing off against the Washington Nationals on Tuesday, and they're going to be a favorite there. But how do you take a look at this Cubs team that right now leads the league in terms of scoring, which I didn't think that they were going to be this good, but also they've had a little bit of inconsistency with their pitching, especially with Justin Steele being down for the year.
Yeah, it's funny how you have a number of these top NL teams that have really feasted on poor competition. And I don't necessarily want to lump the Cubs into that yet because they haven't played that many really good teams. But it's wild how you have, the Padres 11-18 against over 500 teams. Phillies, who the Brewers just swept, now below 500 against good teams. Cubs 12-13 against above 500 clubs. And while they're sitting there, 4-game lead in the division as we record, does that hitting that's been so good all year, and look, they're top 5 in every category. So not like I'm saying this is going to come way back to earth. But, is this a team that the pitching can hold up against the best of the best? And I'll be curious to see what moves they make, because starting pitching depth, they don't give a lot of free passes, which is good, but they give up a lot of hard contact. They're a bottom half of the league starting pitching staff. They also don't, the bullpen has been very hit or miss so far this year. And you wouldn't have expected Daniel Palencia to turn into the closer that he's been. But
Drew Pomeranz.
Geez, I know it's all been, some of these names, right? Like, not a single one of these guys was on the roster at the end of last year. The only guy that was even on the roster in the bullpen before 2025 was Caleb Thielbar, who you're not exactly moving the needle there on a guy like that. So it's truly a collection of the randos. Brad Keller kind of trying to resuscitate his career in the pen. Pomeranz is another guy who fits that bill exactly. Same deal with Ryan Brazier, I'd argue, as well. And you have Ryan Presley with all the injury history he's had. So I just wonder what moves they make in the pen, because clearly in a best-of-7 series, I still think they have to be the favorite to win the division. I feel likely like they will, but I'd have real doubts once it comes postseason time about their ability to hold up against these really good offensive teams.
Yep, I do think that needs to be very much in question, and I do think that that's very much something to be diving in on. As joining me on the show, we've got Ben Wilson, who does such great work here at VSIN, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I do have to ask you about this as well, because we're on the topic of the National League. You do such a great job in terms of finding these different markets to be able to profit off of. How do we go about fading the Colorado Rockies right now? Because their numbers are going to the moon. Actually have a really nice run line price on them, with Sandy Alcantara going for the Marlins on Tuesday. Obviously, Sandy Alcantara has been rough this year, but I think that's worth asking with a team that entered into yesterday 9-50 thus far this season, and everything is just getting priced to the moon with them.
You understand why, right? You and I have both enjoyed the daily stats that come out. I think the fact that Scotty Scheffler won on Sunday was awesome in the PGA.
Since September 22nd, the Denver Broncos have 4 road wins. The Rockies have 3.
Yeah, Scotty Scheffler, a golfer, has as many wins in the last month as the Colorado Rockies, a baseball team. So it's truly amazing. I'll say as an aside, this is kind of my last hope for a guy, on Alcantara that I was really high, and I have lots of shares of him in fantasy, and it has been such a disappointment. If not now, I don't know when, and I really hope he can turn it around.
This is the ultimate get-well spot.
I think I could go out there and throw at least get a quality start out there. So hopefully for his sake it happens. Yeah, and that's the thing. We're about to see the Mets come to Coors this weekend. I think, if anything, you're probably now better off with the way these prices are out there. Looking at some of the opposing team totals in Coors. Now, it's not like you're getting a discount at all, but that's probably the way to attack this. How many runs are the Mets going to score this weekend? It might
57.
be you could eat. I would honestly expect, I'd probably set the number in a 3-game series at 28.5 or something, which seems ludicrous, but you got to figure one of those games is going to be a crooked number, double digits. So that's where I would probably look in the interim. because the bullpen hasn't been horrible, but when you're consistently down by 3, 4, 5 runs every single game, your starters aren't going deep at all. Like, that has to catch up to you at some point. And there's really nobody that you look at that gives you any confidence. Starting pitching, at least you thought, well, there's some guys who are older, they're veterans. Maybe they can get you some deep starts, and that's just not happening right now. So that'll be my strategy going forward. And good luck fading the Rockies again. I know you'll be doing it this weekend against the Mets, but get ready to pay a big price on that.
Yep, and even if you've been paying those big prices, they've been all so profitable, and it's just wild what we're seeing with this Colorado team, but it is wild what we're seeing in baseball. Ben, you do such a great job of being able to gauge this great sport. I know that you're doing a tremendous job in terms of being able to find value in so many different ways, and I know you've been doing a great job on the college baseball front as well, as you call a lot of those games. So let the good people at home know it's on tap for you. I know people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, Ben_Wilson_1, doing a lot of college baseball content right now as we're recording regional finals tonight, then we'll go into supers. So it's a really fun time to be betting college baseball, and a lot of upsets, needless to say, so far, Greg. So that's kind of my main role right now, in addition to some of the play-by-play going on this time of year.
Absolutely, and I should throw this in there as well. If you've been betting overs in college baseball, you've been making a lot of money over the last few days, because these bullpens are just burnt to toast. Like, you've got some of these teams playing like game number 5, game number 6 in 3 days. They have to turn around and they have to play a second game after they played in the afternoon. These guys are just so burnt out, and they're throwing position players right now. So that's always a lot of fun, and it's always a lot of fun to be able to get Ben Wilson aboard, who does such great work here at the network. Big thanks to Ben for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSIN Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday, as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSIN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to be joined by our good friend Ben Wilson. He does amazing work here at VSIN. He does an incredible job as well with all of his play-by-play work, whether that be college baseball, indoor football, college basketball, you name it, he does it. And every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So a big thanks to Ben for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday, as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 901, 902 on the betting board? It is the Colorado Rockies, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the Miami Marlins, as it is Sandy Alcantara who's going to be on the bump for Miami, and Chase Dollander, he's fresh off the injured list for the Rockies. Most places have this off the board because they weren't sure if Dollander was going to be coming off the injured list. Initial opener that I'm seeing over at FanDuel is the Miami Marlins being a favorite of a -174. You're going to be getting a +146 on Colorado. If you're looking at the run line, +122 on Miami, and an 8.5 is the total. Over and under both at -110, and this is just a no-brainer to take a shot on this run line. How about 9-50 for the Rockies to start the season going into yesterday? And on top of that 9-50, they have only lost 11 of those games by 1 run. So out of the 59 games that they played, they have lost 39 by multiple runs. Now, Sandy Alcantara, this is not the Sandy Alcantara that we all know and love. This is an imposter. This guy is coming off of major surgery. He has not looked like himself whatsoever. And the reason why he has not looked like himself has been the command. He's always been a pitcher that has been pretty rock solid in terms of not walking guys. Right now, about 5 walks per 9 innings. That's very much less than savory, but I do think that sooner rather than later, he's going to be able to find it, even though he's given up 4+ runs each out of his last 5 starts. But you've got a Colorado Rockies team that's averaging 2.4 runs per game away from home. Dead stinking last in the league. Now, they did sign Orlando Arcia. He was able to go deep against the New York Mets a few days ago. They're trying to shake things up. Hunter Goodman, along with Jordan Beck, they've been able to give you 8 home runs apiece, but this team is still hitting below the Mendoza 200 as a collective away from home. They have just such demonstrative home and road splits because they come down from elevation, and they just stink stink to start with. So it's really not great for this team, to say the least. Like, you just name off all these guys, and they're all hitting on the road a $175 or worse. Jacob Stallings, Ezekiel Tovar, Brenton Doyle, Ryan McMahon. Now, they have sent a few of these guys down to the minor league level, like Michael Toglia, but I mean, good grief, it is awful. And then for the Rockies, they actually don't have the world's worst bullpen, as Zach Ognos, Jimmy Harrigan. These guys have been able to spy you with a sub at 3.30 ERA. Jake Bird has been relatively okay as well, but Seth Alverson, he's starting to experience some regression. On El Shavili has been rocking an ERA right around about 6. And for the Miami Marlins, this is a less than savory bullpen of their own. They have been a bottom 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA as well. You've been able to have Anthony Bender be able to give you some good innings, but really outside of that, it's been a horse beast situation. Other than Ronnie Enriquez, as a little bit of a long guy, he's been able to do a solid job. He'll be able to give you a sub 3 ERA as well, but when it comes to the Miami Marlins, I do think that they're going to be able to get to Dollander here with Kyle Sowers being able to supply the team with 10 home runs. He's been able to give you about a 350 on base. Xavier Edwards being on the injured list hurts his team, but AC Sanchez has started to pick it up. He, Augustin Ramirez, both hitting at 254, and Ramirez is up to 7 bombs this year. Matt Mervis has been able to give you 7 home runs as well, but I mean, he was so bad that I'm pretty sure that he's been sent down to the minor league level. We have not seen him in weeks. Dane Myers, he's fresh off the injured list. He's able to hit above 300, and I do think that for Chase Dollander, it's going to be a little bit rough for him coming off the injured list. He's got good upside. He's able to give you some swings and misses, but he has just not been able to put it together at the big league level, and you have to wonder how long it's going to take, especially with just being on this stink of stink team that offers no confidence whatsoever. A 6.28 ERA, fielding opponent of a 6.03 as he's allowing 2.3 home runs per 9 innings, north of 4 walks per 9, and last pitched about 2.5 weeks ago. So circumstance where I set the Marlins money line at a minus 241. I set their money line or their run line at a minus 126. So I'm in on that run line, and I'm going to be in on the over. So I told it at 8.8. 903, 904 on the betting board. The Washington Nationals play the Chicago Cubs as Cade Horton, here's a who, is on the bum for the Cubs, and Trevor Williams goes for Washington. Washington is an underdog of between plus 124 to a plus 130. Minus 137 to minus 148. That number on the Cubbies, and 9 is the total. The over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And for Washington, I did set them as a underdog of plus 141. So here at the minus 140, it's my max buy point on the Chicago Cubs, but I'm going to be willing to lay that number for Horton. He's come up from the minor league level, and he's been presentable for this team. He's got a ways to go, in my opinion, posting up about a 398 in terms of that ERA, but he's not giving out a lot of free passes. He's giving out only about 1.8 walks per 9 innings, 7 strikeouts per 9. Young kid from Oklahoma that has some upside. And then for Trevor Williams, he's just been banged around and banged around. Now, I do think that there is going to be positivity for him moving forward. A 5.69 ERA, but a fielding pattern more around about a 4.09. He also doesn't put guys on cheaply. 2.4 walks and 1.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Not too much of a swing and miss guy, though. He's only giving you about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. And has given up 4+ runs in 4 of his last 5 starts, but coming off of 6 scoreless innings against the Seattle Mariners in his last start. So I do think the positivity is doing for him. Now, where there's not a lot of positivity is with the Washington Nationals bullpen. This Nationals bullpen is just absolutely terrible. They're currently dead last in the National League in terms of ERA. They tried out Lucas Sims to begin the season. They had to DFA him, so that was not necessarily so tremendous. It's right now becoming pretty much survival of the fittest with regards to this bullpen. Like, how long is Jose Ferreira and his 5.40 ERA going to be there? Zach Brzezinski, Ore Lopez, these guys give me north of a 5.70 ERA now. You've been able to get a little bit of production out of the likes of Kyle Finnegan, Cole Henry, along with Andrew Chafin. They've all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but it's really not good there. Now for the Washington Nationals, what is good is the good wood that you're getting out of James Wood. 16 home runs, give you about a 385 on base. You've had a lot of guys that have been able to do a solid job of being able to find a way on base. Luis Garcia's hitting at 250. Nathaniel Lowe's up to 8 home runs. He and CJ Abrams both have 8 home runs, and Abrams is sitting at 275. Lowe more around about a 230, but you just need Josh Bell along Dylan Cruz, who have combined for 16 home runs to find more consistency in terms of getting on base. Both of these guys hitting below the Bedell sign of a 200, and for the Chicago Cubs, this is the number 1 offense in all baseball in terms of run creation, as you've got a quartet of different guys who have been able to give you at least 11 home runs, as it's been headlined by Pete Crow Armstrong and his 15 bombs, but then you've got, say, Suzuki, Kyle Tucker, along Dansby Swanson, all with at least 11 home runs apiece, and for Tucker, about a 390 on base, and these are not solo shots because you got a lot of guys that are finding way on base. Carson Kelly has been able to give you nearly a 400 on base, 9 home runs at his first 115 at-bats. You got Nico Horner hitting at 300, Miguel Amaya is hitting at 280, so these guys have all been able to step up. It is a relative relatively league average bullpen with regards to the Cubs, but they have had two very nice finds in Daniel Palencia, along Drew Pomeranz. These guys have been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Brad Keller has been able to do a pretty solid job, and he's a former starter, so he can give you a little bit of length as well. I do think that this Cubs team should be able to go out there, get the job done, even with Horton being a little bit inexperienced. Now, I did set my total at 9.7. I think that Horton is going to give up some runs, but I do think that the Cubs get to Trevor Williams. So I like this line over, and I do like the Cubs up to a minus 140 on that money line, and a 5.9 to 6 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road against the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we are on to Cincinnati. Who's on to Hunter Green getting the start for them, and Freddie Peralta goes for the Brewers, and the Brewers are a very small underdog of between minus 105 to a plus 104. Meanwhile, minus 110 to minus 115 is that number on Cincinnati. 8 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and for the Reds, I did set them at a minus 112. So seeing that minus 110, I'm going to be willing to dive in on that money line. For Hunter Green, this guy just has really good swing and miss stuff, as throughout his career, he's always been able to give you north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. Did spend a little bit of time on the injured list a little bit earlier on this season, but seems to be rounding back into form ever since coming off the injured list. Has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in all of his starts, and overall for the season, 10.9 strikeouts at 1.8 walks per 9. Now, he does give up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. That'll just happen when you throw the way that he does, but overall, I've loved what I've seen out of him. And for Freddie Peralta, it's been honestly a little bit of a struggle for him this season, as he's been able to supply this team with a 2.77 ERA. Fielding pen, though, is a 3.99. His 9.1 strikeouts is a career low. He's giving up 3.5 walks per 9, so do have to have a little bit of concern, especially with the Brewers currently a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Yopiams, Elvis Figueroa were so good last season. These guys have dealt with either injury or being sent down to the minor league level, so that's not good. You do have Abner Uribe, who's been very good in this bullpen, as he's been able to supply you with a sub-2 ERA. You can use them pretty much at any time, and getting back DL Hall is going to be able to help this team out moving forward as well. And Grant Anderson, to my surprise, he's actually been halfway decent. He, Nick Mears, Trevor McGill, all posting up a sub-3 ERA, but Brian Hudson has not been himself, and he's been banged up. Jared Koenig has been giving you a 3.75 ERA. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, this is a lineup that doesn't necessarily supply a ton of power. It's functional power, and Christian Yelich is up to 12 home runs, but Christian Yelich also hitting only about a 2.35. Got Jackson Trios able to give you 9 bombs, but again, a 2.85 on base. Now, the guys are able to move the line are very good, as you've got Sal Frelick, William Contreras, Rhys Hoskins. I'll give you at least a 350 on base. Bryce Terang is up to a 335 on base. And for Terang, Chiriot, Yelich, throwing their Sal Frelick, they've all been able to give you at least 10 stolen bases. They've been supreme there. And speaking of supreme base stealers, how about Ellie De La Cruz? He's always able to be a threat to be able to get on, and he's been able to supply this team now with 12 plus home runs himself. Strikes out a little bit more than what I'd like, but you know what? He's been able to do a rock solid job for this team. And then you've got Matt McClain, give me 6 bombs at 11 stolen bases, but just doesn't get on base. He's hitting a $175. Santiago Espinal has been able to hit about a 250. Gavin Luxo, 380 on base. CJ Friedel, about a 380 on base. You need the bottom lineup to step up a little bit more. Tyler Stevenson's coming off the injury list. That should be able to help them out a little bit, but I do think that in the end, the Reds do a nice job of being able to get to Freddie Peralta, and I think that Hunter Green goes out there and dominates. Semi-total at 8.3. Do like this 8 over, and I do like the Reds on the money line. 907, 908 on the betting board. The Arizona Diamondbacks are on the road against the Atlanta Braves, as Spencer Strider goes for the Bravos, and Zach Gallen looks to fill it up for Arizona. Arizona plus 130 to plus 136 dogs, minus 146, minus 155. That number on Atlanta in FNC total. The over is minus 125, and the under is plus 105. This on my total at an 8.7, so we'll be willing to take a shot on the 8.5 over. With Spencer Strider, he just has not looked like himself since coming off the injury list, and you figured as much because he's a high strikeout pitcher and having to come off of some pretty major surgery. You figured that was going to be tweaking things a little bit for him. 15 strikeouts in 14 innings still is not bad, but you can tell that he's just not the same pitcher when he's not getting those just exorbitant amount of strikeouts, and he's been having a little bit of tough time with regards to command. 6 walks in 14 innings across his 3 starts this far this season, and the Braves have dropped all 3 of them, so that's a little bit of an issue. And on the flip side, you do have a pitcher that has been having his struggles as well in Mr. Zach Gallen, who he's got an ERA that's north of a 5, and I have to wonder if there's just residual, shall we say, effects of that massive 2023 that he's had, because just has never really been the same pitcher ever since then. 5.54 ERA, Philly pennant is right around about a 4.58, still getting about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the 4.3 walks per 9 innings is bad, and then he's given up 1.4 home runs per 9. He comes in having allowed at least 4 runs in each out of his last 4 starts, and really Arizona Diamondbacks, the good news is they're able to get those runs back for them because this is one of the most rock-solid offenses that you're going to find in all baseball, dating back to the start of the 2024 season, a top 3 team in terms of run creation with Eugenio Suarez, along with Corbin Carroll, supplying 16 home runs apiece. For Suarez, not necessarily hitting for a ton of average at about a 230, Corbin Carroll more around about a 250 average, but Gabriel Moreno sitting at 275, Geraldo Palermo is giving you about a 380 on base, Lourdes Gurriel starting to pick it up after a rough start to the season, he's hitting at 250, you get back to Tel Marte, darn near 400 on base with 8 home runs, and for this Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen, it has been one of the, shall we say, more shaky ones in the big leagues ever since A.J. Puk went on the injured list. Now, they're getting back Justin Martinez, that's big because he's been able to give you a sub-350 ERA, Jalen Beeks has been able to do a nice job holding down the fort along with Shelby Miller, both of these guys, but he'll supply a sub-350 ERA, but likes of a Juan Murillo, along with Ryan Thompson, these guys have just not been great, to say the least, and flip side, you do have an Atlanta Braves team that I have a little bit more faith in their bullpen. Desbel Hernandez has been solid, giving you a sub-3 ERA. You've had Rossio Iglesias actually be really, really bad this far this season, but you know what? You've been able to have Pierce Johnson give you a relatively good, just sort of approach. Dylan Lee's been able to give you sub-3 ERA, and getting back Ronald Acuna Jr. just absolutely massive for the Braves. He was able to have 3 home runs in his first 6 games of the season. Austin Riley, Marcelo Ozuna, Matt Olson, all have a double-figure amount of homers, and for Ozuna, a 420 on base. You've got Austin Riley hitting at 275. Olson not hitting for the world's greatest amount of average, but certainly has been able to supply that boom. And then you've got a guy like an Alex Verdugo who doesn't have for a lot of power, but he's starting to move the line a little bit. Need a bit more out of Ozzie Albies along with Michael Harris, but do think that for the Atlanta Braves, they should get a little bit more here out of Spencer Strider. Just really do not like this form of Zach Gallen, as I did set the Braves on the money line at a minus 157. If you're looking to lay a run half right now, that initial opener at FanDuel, which again, they always have the most wonky, shall we say, openers with regards to run line. I'm finding that at a plus 136. I'd be willing to take a plus 122 or higher on that run line. So looking at Braves' run line and looking at that over 909, 910 on the betting board. The Slam Diego Padres hit the road. They're facing up against the San Francisco Giants, as it is going to be Landon Roop who's going to be on the bump for San Francisco, and it's old undecided who's going to be on the bump for the Padres. So this is a game that's presently off the board. And the reason why is with the Padres, it's looking like they're going to go with Ryan Bergen as their starter. He's currently on the taxi squad for the team, and for Bergen, he has filled in for a few innings in relief for them, but has been primarily utilized as a starter at the minor league level, and he's a little bit of an upside prospect, comes in from, I believe, West Virginia, and if you take a look at what he's been able to do at the minor league level thus far this season, keep in mind that he's playing out there in the PCL for quite a few of these starts, and that is a juice ball league, to say the least. He's been posting up in the PCL right around about 375 ERA. I'm not saying that it's amazing or anything like that, but I mean, in the PCL, when you're playing in El Paso, to post up a 375 ERA is actually not bad. 9.3 strikeouts, does give up 3.5 walks per 9 innings, so a little bit of suspectness there, but I do think that there's a little bit of upside with him. You just don't know how much length he's going to be able to give, because at the minor league level, he was only going about 4 innings to start as well. Now, you do also have a Padres bullpen that does rank in the top 8 in terms of their ERA, as you've got a lot of guys they're able to mix and match with. Adrian Morejon has been able to give you an ERA that's hovering right around a 3. Jeremiah Estrada has been very rock solid as well. You've obviously got Robert Suarez and Jason Adam, 2 guys at the back end. They're able to give you a sub 225 ERA. But for the Padres, really, other than what you've been able to get out of 2 main guys, Fernando Tatis Jr. and Gavin Sheets, combined 24 home runs between these 2 guys, both hitting about a 265. Not necessarily a ton of power. Manny Machado, only 7 home runs going into yesterday, albeit hitting at 300. You've got a guy like an Jose Iglesias, who you know that you're not going to get any power out of him. Jake Cronenworth coming off the injury list, giving you a 375 on base, is rock solid, and Luis Ariz, he gets on base, but obviously not necessarily too much of a power threat. And for the San Francisco Giants, you do have a trio of different guys that have been able to give you 10 home runs this season, with Wilmer Flores, Matt Chapman, and Eloy Ramos being able to do so. And Ramos is a guy that I really like, 360 on base, and then Matt Chapman is able to give you about a 360 on base. Need some of those guys like Luis Matos, Patrick Bailey, Lamont Wade Jr. hitting below the Bedell's 200 to be able to pick it up. And at some point, Willie Thomas should hit. Willie Thomas, 5 home runs with a 210 average. That's been not so savory to say the least, but you've also got a San Francisco Giants bullpen that is number 1 in terms of ERAs. You've got so many guys who you can mix and match with. Randy Rodriguez has posted up a sub 1 ERA this season. Tyler Rogers, Eric Miller, now they've got Tristan Beck in the fold, Camilo Duvall. All these guys have been able to give you a sub 2 ERA. Spencer Bivens is a relatively good long guy, and for Landon Roop, he's done a pretty solid job of holding down the fort for the team. He's getting about 9 strikeouts strikeouts per 9 innings. The walks have been going down a little bit, about 3 walks per 9 innings. He's giving up less than a home run per 9, 354 ERA, fielding independent that very much backs it up. So I do think that with Landon Roop should be a pretty nice size favorite. I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 151 on this Giants money line, plus 153 or higher, looking at the Padres, and then semi-total at an 8.4. So 8 or less like the over, 8.5 or higher. The under, 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. The New York Mets are on the road against the LA Dodgers, as it is Clayton Kershaw on the bump for the Dodgers, and Tyler McGill goes for the Mets. Mets are a plus 120 underdog, minus 132 to minus 142. That number on the Dodgers, 9 is a total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And for the Dodgers, I did set them at a minus 114. So being able to get this plus 120, I'm going to be in on the Mets money line. I just don't have a lot of faith in Clayton Kershaw at this advanced age in his career. Now, for Clayton Kershaw, that rough first start of the season against the LA Angels, and ever since then, last 2 starts have been a little bit better, but one of those starts, he, I believe, only went 2 innings due to rain, and I think that was ironically enough against the Mets, and his swing and miss stuff is just way down. Now, it's a small sample size of 11 innings, but 6 strikeouts and 6 walks in 11 innings, just not eliciting a lot of confidence. He's 37 years old, he's long in the tooth, so that's a bit of an issue. And then for Tyler McGill, he's been able to do a really nice job in terms of being able to get these swings and misses, as he's now up to 12 strikeouts per 9 innings. He is supplying about 4.5 walks per 9, so that's been a little bit of an issue for him, but 3.52 ERA. Absolutely love what he's able to bring to the table for this team, and he's been able to give up only a combined 3 runs in his last 2 starts, one of those starts being on the road against Boston, so I do think that things are going to be positive for him, and he's backed up by a Mets bullpen that's currently number 2 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've had Jose Buto have a little bit of issue recently with regards to his just overall command and stuff, but that said, you've got Oscar Brzobin, who's been able to give you sub 2 ERA. Edwin Diaz, after a little bit of a rough start to the season, he's really been able to pick it up as well. Reed Garrett has been nails for the team, and then you've got a lineup that has quite a few guys who are able to mash, as you've got Brandon Nimmo's up to 9 home runs, not hitting for a lot of average at a 230, and Juan Soto still hitting about a 233, but a pair of home runs in that series against the Colorado Rockies should get him going, so give you about a 360 on base. Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, combined 25 home runs, both hitting above a 280. Luis Torrens at the catcher spot has been rock solid. Luanel Acuna, not necessarily a ton of power, but moves the line for the team. And on the flip side, you do have an LA Dodgers bullpen that is hovering right around about league average in terms of their ERA, as you've got Kirby Yates on the injured list. You're dealing with Blake Treinen being on the injured list. So a lot of guys that you expected to be out there have not been out there. Now you've got Shohei Ohtani in terms of the lineup giving you 22 home runs, and he's supplying a 390 on base. And Freddie Freeman north of a 430 on base. He has been tremendous with that regard. Andy Paz has been able to give you 11 home runs. He's hitting about a 280, and Mookie Betts currently dealing with a little bit of an injury. That's something that you do want to note, but he's been actually a little bit down with his production this year. And Tommy Edman, he's going to get more opportunities. He's supplying 9 bombs, about 150 or so bats. He's been able to about a 250. Got Jack Dreyer, Ben Casparis, who have been relatively good long guys for the Dodgers in that bullpen, but all in all, I take a look at the Mets. I do think that they should not be this big of an underdog. I felt like the Dodgers should have been a very, very slight favorite, but getting this plus 120, I like the Mets on the money line, and I do like this total over, so my total 9.1. 9-13, 9-14 on the betting board. The Cleveland Guardians at the road, they're facing off against the New York Yankees. Carlos Rodon is on the bump for the Yankees, and Tanner Bybee is on the bump for the Cleveland Guardians. Guardians do find themselves between plus 150 to plus 158 dogs, and between minus 170 to minus 180 is that number on New York. 8 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And for the Yankees, I did set them on the money line at a minus 201. I was pretty much willing to take anything at plus money with regards to this run line, and right now seeing that additional opener over at FanDuel, they're showing the Yankees about a plus 106 on that run line, and I'd be willing to take a shot there. Carlos Rodon has just been absolutely dominant recently. How about 7 earned runs in his last 8 starts? He has really come into his own after he had like 1 or 2 starts towards the beginning part of the season. That was a little bit shaky. He's down to about a home run allowed per 9 innings, which that's always been the main kryptonite for him. He's been throughout his career a little bit hit or miss in terms of giving up the deep ball, but back up to 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. Guy is absolutely dealing right now, and he's backed up by a bullpen that can be a little bit shaky, but they're doing a nice job. I'll be a mix and match. Fernando Cruz being on the injured list has been hurting this team a little bit, but Tim Hill has been able to give them some good production. Yuri De Los Santos have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA, and then obviously you've got Luke Weaver in the back end, who's been just absolutely amazing, posting up right around about a 1 ERA. And for the Yankees, top offense out there in the American League, Aaron Judge, 21 bombs, 485 on base. Not much more needs to be said there, but Ben Rice, Trent Grisham have really stepped up. A combined 25 home runs. Both of those guys hitting right around about a 250. Anthony Volpe has had a little bit of a rough go of it, but you know what? what? He's still giving you about a 320 on base. He's still been able to supply a little bit of power. Cody Bellinger, in the month of May, after he had a rough start to the season, he's picked it up. Yasan Dominguez is moving the line as well, so I do like what I'm seeing there. And for the flip side of the Cleveland Guardians, just have a bottom of the lineup that isn't providing too much for you whatsoever. They had to send Brian Rocchio down to the minor league level because he just was not giving you anything whatsoever. And I mean, the top guys have been great. Jose Ramirez, 11 home runs, 380 on base. Stephen Kwan is hitting above 300. Carlos Santana is starting to give you a little bit more on base as well, albeit not necessarily a ton of power, but he's getting on base with a 370 on base. Kyle Manzardo has been able to supply that power, but hitting for just a 211. But then you got so many guys like Big Christmas, John Kenzie Noel, Bo Naylor, throwing their Lane Thomas, guys like this. They're hitting below the middle sign 200. Nolan Jones has had a little bit of a rough season. And for the Cleveland Guardians, after they were number one in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA last season, right around about league average, you've had Hunter Gaddis, Cade Smith supply you with a sub-3 ERA. Joey Cantillo starting to round into form a little bit as well, but I was expecting more out of Matthew Festa. Him, Tim Herron, about a 405 ERA. Jacob Junis has been a little bit hot and cold as well, so I do think that for the New York Yankees, they should be able to go out there, dominate against a guy in Tanner Bybee. He's got an ERA that is hovering right around about a 3.8, but I do think that there's a lot of negative regression that is going to be in for him, as for Mr. Bybee, he's got a fielding independent that's hovering more around about a 5, as he has not been able to get the same amount of swing and miss as he did a season ago. 7.1 strikeouts at 3 walks per 9 innings, 1.7 bombs allowed per 9, and I do think that the Yankees get the job done here in pretty convincing fashion. I did set my total at an 8.3. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that Yankees run line, and with regards to the total at the 8, do like the over. Do think that we're doing for a little bit of regression. 915, 916 on the card. The Boston Red Sox do play out the LA Angels. Yusei Kikuchi, I say he's starting for the Angels, and Brian Bayo is on the bump for Boston. Boston is a minus 136, so a minus 142 favorite. Plus 120 to plus 127, that number on the Halos. 9 is the total, under is minus 120, and the over is even. And for Boston, I did set them on the money line at a minus 136, so I'm going to be willing to fire in there at that minus 136. That's pretty much my max buy point there. As for Yusei Kikuchi, he's got a pretty solid 3.06 ERA, but 4.36 fielding dependent. Not really giving up too much of the deep ball, but only about 8 strikeouts and 4.9 walks per 9 innings. And when he knocks himself out and starts early with those walks, that manifests itself because this bullpen is absolutely terrible for the LA Angels. A 6.04 ERA, albeit they've been a little bit better over the last week or so. They picked up some of these guys like Robert Stevenson and company. They now have out there Hunter Strickland, but if Hunter Strickland is your saving grace in the bullpen, that tells you where your bullpen is at. And then you got these guys like Ryan Zephyrian, Kenley Jansen, Hector Neris, both getting up north of a 5 ERA, so that's not amazing. You've got an Angels team that actually is in the top 2 in the American League in terms of home runs per game on the road. Taylor Ward, Logan O'Hoppe, a combined 30 home runs, and O'Hoppe has been waiting for about a 260. Taylor Ward is giving you 272 on base. You need a bit more there. And Mike Trout, he's come off the injured list and he's been able to move the line a little bit in the first few games, but he's still hitting for about a 282 on base this season, so he's been down. Zach Neto has actually been very solid for the team, hitting a 270 with 9 home runs. Love that, but you've had quite a few struggling bats out there that just have not been able to find it. Like you've got Kyron Paris, who's been stuck on 6 bombs, and he's hitting below the middle sign of 200. They had to send him down to the minor league level. You haven't been able to get a lot in general of Joe Adele, who's hitting for about 7 bombs, about a 280 on base, and then on the flip side, you've got a bunch that has really been a little bit rough with that Alex Bregman in the Boston Red Sox, but I do think that they're going to be able to pick it up sooner rather than later. You still have a pair of guys in Wilder Brady along with Rafael Devers with 12 plus home runs this season, and for Devers, I mean, he's not going to pick it up with a glove, but you know what, 400 on base. Jaron Duran has been a little bit better here over the last few weeks. He's hitting about a 265. Carlos Narvaez is hitting a 285. Now, you just have not been able to have a ton out towards the bottom of the fold. Some of these guys that were so good last year, like a Connor Wong, whenever they've given him at-bats, has not necessarily been great for them, and Ceddanne Rafael is just very hit or miss, and Tristan Campbell starting to regress, but I do think that for the Red Sox, them having a much better bullpen does put them in a good spot here, as you've been able to have Brendan Bernardino along the roll to Chapman, supply a sub-2 area. Now Chapman always have to have your trepidations there, but Greg Weiser giving you some solid innings. Liam Hendricks goes on the injured list, but he wasn't necessarily supplying a lot for the team either, and I do think that when it's all said and done, the Red Sox should be able to do a nice job of taking it to the Angels, despite the fact that Brian Bayo, he himself is doing for quite a bit of regression, as he's right now posting up an ERA of a 3.83, but a 5.05 fielding independent, 6 half strikeouts, 5 walks per 9 innings. That's a pretty solid job of not giving up the deep ball, but for Brian Bale, very much a sinker ball pitcher that is very hittable. He relies upon being able to get double plays and things of that nature, and I do think that with this Angels team, they're going to do a nice job of being able to give you a little bit of offense here. So it is a circumstance where I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over, as I did set my total more at a 9.8, and for the Red Sox up to a minus 136 is what I'm willing to lay on that money line. 917, 918 on the betting board. It is the Walker Texas Rangers on the road facing off against the Tampa Bay Rays, as Drew Rasmussen is on the bump for the Rays and Tyler Mahle is on the bump for Texas. Texas is a underdog of any routine plus 114 to a plus 123, minus 133 to a minus 135 is that number on the Tampa Bay Rays. 8 is the total, over and under both at minus 110. Set the Rays at a minus 138. I'm going to be willing to roll with this money line for Tyler Mahle. He's had a really nice season thus far. I just can't help but think that the air is going to be going out of the balloon sooner rather than later, as he just really hasn't been able to give you a lot of swing and miss this season, and he is someone that I feel like has been very fortunate with regards to his strand rate, as well as he's been giving you only about 6.5 strikeouts at 3.3 walks per 9 innings. Now, to his credit, he keeps the ball in the yard. He's given up 2 home runs across his 12 starts in 66 innings thus far this season, but man, when you've got just that much contact in general, it leads me to think that you're getting a little bit too fortunate, as his betting average on balls in place right now is at 232. So, yeah, that's been very interesting to say the least. And on the flip side, you've got a guy in Drew Rasmussen who I just believe is a really steady and solid pitcher. He's not going to go out there and light the world on fire, but he's been able to post up a 2.33 ERA. Swing and miss stuff has been down this year. About 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's career more around 8.5 strikeouts per 9, but is allowing less than a home run per 9 innings, and has went out there in his last 3 starts, has won 6 innings of scoreless baseball in all 3 of them. Do I think that there's going to be a little bit of regression to this? Yes, I don't think that this is going to be sustainable for forever, but you know what? He goes up against the Texas Rangers team that has been in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of offense. You've had Wyatt Langford do a nice job supplying the team with a double-figure amount of homers, but you just haven't been able to have a lot of guys that have just had consistency whatsoever at the plate. The Josh Young along with Josh Smith, they've been able to give you a bit of average, as for Young, he's hitting about a 275 or so, and then Josh Smith about a 340 on base. You've had 7 home runs out of Young, and then Adolis Garcia has 7 home runs, but he, Marcus Semien, Jake Berger, Jock Peterson, all these guys are hitting a 215 or lower, and for Jock Peterson, it's just been an absolute miserable run for him. He's currently on the injured list and has not been missed. Evan Carter, since coming off the injured list, has been hitting below the Bedell's line of 200. Sam Haggerty has moved the line a little bit, and getting back Corey Seager is big, but Corey Seager's not having the year that you would like as well. And for the Rangers, it's not like it's some sort of an amazing bullpen. Now, it's not bad. They're about a league average bullpen in terms of ERA, but Chris Martin, one of their better relievers, is currently dealing with a little bit of an injury. Robert Garcia, Hobie Miller, these guys have been able to give you a sub 230 ERA. Jacob Lyons as a long guy has been okay. You've had some suspectness with the likes of Sean Armstrong and company, though, and when it comes to the flip side, you do have yourself a bunch of the Tampa Bay Rays that is once again back in the top 5 in terms of bullpen ERA. They always do a great job of mixing and matching with these guys, as you've got the likes of A.P. Fairbanks, obviously your closer. When he's been out there, Hunter Biggies, he's dealt with a little bit of injury. Manuel Rodriguez, Eric Orze, Garrett Clevenger, all these guys flying a sub 250 ERA. And for the Rays, it's still not an amazing offense, but they're right around about league average in terms of run production. Junior Caminero, Brandon Lau have been able to combine for 25 home runs. For Caminero, only about a 290 on base, really both of those guys, but you've been able to get some good production as well from Chandler Simpson, who all of a sudden has been able to move line, hitting at 285 for the team with 19 stolen bases, and Jose Calabreo, 19 stolen bases as well. So these two guys, when they get on, they're able to get into scoring position. Now, need more out of the catcher spot. Ben Rofit, Danny Jansen have been your main 2 catchers. They're both hitting below the Bedell's line. Drew Hunter, Curtis Mead hasn't necessarily been able to give you too much either, but that said, I do think that Drew Rasmussen does a nice job holding down the Rangers. I think that Mahle is doing for some regression. Keep in mind, this is now an outdoor stadium out there in Tampa Bay, so the ball's going to be flying a little bit more now that we hit June, so I did somebody tell it at 8.3. I like the over, and I do like the race up to a minus 138 on that money line. 919, 920 on the betting board. It is the Detroit Tigers. They're going to be on the road. They're facing off against the Chicago White Sox. As we do know that Shane Smith is going to be going for the Southsiders. Right now, it's a little to be determined who's going to be on the bump for the Detroit Tigers. This is a game that's presently off the board. And when I was doing my intel, they were saying on CBS Sports that it's going to be Sawyer, Gibson, and Long who should be getting the start for them. And if you do indeed get Sawyer, Gibson, and Long, I did set the Tigers on the money line at a minus 159. I'd be willing to take like an even money or better run line on them, and then somebody tell it at 8.3, so 8 or less looking at the over, 8.5 or higher the under. I'm not going to go too deep onto Gibson Long, but I will say He did get a few starts during the 2023 campaign, dealt with injuries towards back half of that, and then into 2024, so he's had to make a lot of minor league rehab starts. And when he was at the big league level a few seasons ago, he actually delivered some pretty good starts for what was at the time a relatively rough Detroit Tigers team. He was able to post up a 2.70 ERA across 4 starts, 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and in his minor league rehab appearances this season, he's actually been very good with regards to command. Now, he's won 16 1/3 innings of 5 starts, so not a lot of length here, 9 strikeouts, about 2 walks per 9 innings, so I'm thinking that you're probably going to be getting a lot of the bullpen here for the Detroit Tigers, so if you do get someone other than Gibson Long, it probably upgrades the Detroit Tigers a little bit, but as we know, this is one of the best bullpens that you're going to find in all of baseball. Would not be surprising to see Brant Herter give you quite a few innings here. He's already made a start or two thus far this season, and you've got so many guys who you're able to mix and match with that have an ERA of a 3 or better. Will Vest is certainly one of those guys. Tommy Canely, Chase Lee has been a little bit more trustworthy for this team as well, and then more around about a 3.25 ERA. You've got Brendan Hennefy, and he's also going to be back by a lineup that is in the top 4 in the American League in terms of runs per game. Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, all 3 of these guys have been able to give you 10 plus home runs this season, and all 3 of these guys doing a solid job in terms of moving the line. Torkelson about a 340 on base. Other 2 guys, you've got about a 270 average. Gleyber Torres, Zach McKinstry, Javi Baez, going in that neighborhood about a 265 to 275, and Torres giving you north of a 300 on base. You haven't gotten a ton of power out of him, but and he's done a nice job being able to get on base for you. And then for the Chicago White Sox, this is a bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Have been a heck of a lot better at home rather than on the road. And Miguel Vargas, so that'll give you 8 home runs. And now you're getting Andrew Benintendi off the injured list, 6 home runs, hitting about a 245. Chase Meredoroth has been able to hit about a 280 as well, but Andrew Vaughn had to get sent down to the minor league level. Luis Robert hitting a $180 for 5 home runs. You just expect more there. Lennon Sosa's moving the line, but also for the White Sox, this has been one of the more sad and sorry bullpens out there in the big league. So Mike Vasil has actually been very good. He's been giving you a sub 225 ERA, but then you got the likes of a Brandon Iser, Cam Bouger, throw in there Jared Schuster, guys like this. They're posting up north of 5 ERA. Tyler Gilbert is now on the injured list, so that hurts him quite a bit as well. And I will say, for Shane Smith, he's actually been quite good this far this season, and some of the starting pitching for this White Sox team has actually not been terrible. So you have to give a little bit of credit where it is due for Mr. Smith, 268 ERA. He's swing and miss stuff is starting to tick up a little bit. 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He is giving up about 3.5 walks per 9. His fielding dependent more around at 367. So do have to feel like you're going to be getting a little bit of regression there. That said, I do think that in this spot, the Detroit Tigers should be a relatively sizable favorite. We really don't have too many openers up on the board right now. I was not seeing really any of them even at FanDuel or anything like that. So we're just going to go with my handicap here. Even money or better. We'll be looking at the Detroit Tigers on that run line. I set them at a minus 159 on the money line. So need at least plus 160 to take a shot on the White Sox, and then 8 or less like the over, 8.5 or the under. 921, 922 on the betting board. It is the Seattle Mariners, and they're going to be playing us the Baltimore Orioles. Tomoyuki Sugano is on the bump for the Orioles, and George Kirby goes for Seattle. 7.5 is the total. Over is between minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is between minus 105 to a minus 110, and Seattle is between minus 150 to minus 162. Between plus 136, plus 140 is that number on Baltimore, and I did set the Mariners money line at a minus 173. I'm going to be willing to lay it this despite the fact that George Kirby has been not great in his first 2 starts of the season. He has a lot of 11 runs in 8 2/3 innings, and he's given up 3 walks as well. His walks per 9 rate is right now at 3.1. That's for his career 1.2. He struggled in his minor league rehab appearances at the AAA level as well, so that's something that you do want to be noting. But for Sugano, I think that he's doing for a lot of aggression. 323 ERA, fielding dependent though is a 478. He's given up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. He's getting fewer than 5 strikeouts per 9, and he's backed up by one of the most rough bullpens that you're going to find in all baseball. Now, for the Seattle Mariners in their previous series against the Minnesota Twins, they were a little bit shaky with that bullpen as well, but Matt Brash, Andres Munoz have both been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Casey Lugumina has not been bad for this team as well. You've had Gabe Spire be able to do a nice job of being able to inspire some good innings of this bullpen as well, and Carlos Vargas has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, so overall I think that they're going to be solid there, and Seattle is right now a top 12 team in terms of run production, despite the fact that they play in the most pitcher-friendly ballpark in all baseball. Big dumper Cal Raleigh, 23 home runs at a 380 on base. He has been amazing. Julio Rodriguez, Oriol Polanco up to 10 bombs apiece. Now, Polanco is starting to regress. As he's starting to regress, Julio Rodriguez, it does feel like he's starting to come into his own a little bit more, and he could use a little bit more out of Miles Masterboni. Not a lot of power, hitting about a 220. Mitch Garver has been a little bit of a disappointment as well, but Randy Arozarena doesn't hit for a lot of average, but about a 340 on base. And JP Crawford, that 380 on base, that's pretty rock solid for him as well. And then on the flip side, you've got a Baltimore team that has been in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of run production. You've been able to have Cedric Mullins give you 10 home runs, but he lands on the injured list, so that's been less than tremendous. Ryan O'Hearn, 9 home runs, north of 4 on base, doing a nice job being able to move the line. Jackson Holiday, Gunnar Henderson, these two guys in between about a 259 to a 269. They're both giving you about 7 home runs this season, so they're doing a functional job. But as Sinclair said, hitting below the middle sign 200. Tyler O'Neill, when he's been out there, has been rough. You just have not been able to get a lot of Dylan Carlson as well. That's an issue, and I mentioned that bullpen. It is just not good, to say the least. You've had Felix Bautista have a little bit of an up and down year, and we have really seen a few guys like Ynier Cano, Sir Anthony Dominguez, who have put it together at the big league level, really struggled. These two guys, a north of 4.70 ERA. Gregory Soto is rocking a 4.5 ERA as well. So I do think that for Seattle, they go out there, get to Sagano, get the job done. I was willing to take a plus 125 or higher with regards to this run line, and I'm going to be in on that over. I set my total at a 7.9, and right now that Seattle Mariners run line, plus 132, going to be willing to dive in there. 923, 924 on the betting board. It is the Minnesota Twins, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the Athletics as Pablo Lopez is on the bump for the Minnesota Twins, and right now this game is off the board because the Athletics have yet to settle on a starter, but when I was looking on CBS Sports, they were showing Jacob Lopez. So hopefully we get Lopez on Lopez. And if we do indeed get Lopez on Lopez, because, well, we've got no openers up on this game, I set the Twins at a minus 156. We'll be willing to lay up to a minus 155 there. Plus 157 or higher. Looking at the Athletics, and pretty much even money or better, we'll be looking at the Twins on the run line. And set a total of 9.7, 9.5 or less. Looking at the over a 10 or higher to the under. And this would be Jacob Lopez's time through the rotation if he does indeed get the start, but man, it was relatively rough for him last time out that he faced off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Gave up 7 runs and he got 5 outs. Not so tremendous. Our previous start, he gave up 1 run in 7 innings against the Philadelphia Phillies in Sacramento. So we've seen the best of it and we've seen the worst of it for Lopez. He's getting 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but giving up 5 walks per 9 innings, a 550 fielding to pen. Then the other Lopez, Pablo Lopez, this is obviously the better of the two. He has had himself a really nice season. A 2.75 ERA. His swing and miss stuff is solid. A little bit over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's giving up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, and he's done a really good job of being able to turn those, shall we say, fielding independent numbers and the good luck that he should have been getting into reality. And for the Minnesota Twins, they do back him up with a top 5 bullpen in terms of ERA. They've been dealing with an injury to Danny Colum. That's been an issue as he has not allowed an earned run all season long, but you've still been able to mix and match for the team. Cody Funderburk has really been one of the few untrustworthy guys other than Griffin Jacks in this bullpen, as Yohan Duran has been posting up an ERA that's hovering right around 1. You've got the likes of Justin Topa, Cole Sands, even Brock and Roll Stewart giving you a sub 3.5 ERA. And for the Minnesota Twins, it's been a little bit of a hit-or-miss lineup. They're in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of run production. Byron Buxton coming off of the injured list is big. He's been able to give you 10 home runs, supplying about a 315 on base, and then Trevor Larnach, along Ty France, are moving the line in between about a 255 to a 265. Larnach has been able to give you 8 home runs this season. Harrison Bader as well, about a 360 on base. You've had Christian Vasquez, Edouard Julien, these guys at the bottom of the lineup, not really give you a whole lot though. And for the Athletics, you do have Tyler Soderstrom along Brent Rooker, who have been able to combine for 25 home runs, and both of these guys hitting in that realm of about a 330 on base. Lawrence Butler is starting to pick it up after a little bit of a rough start to the season, but it's been a little bit hot and cold for this team as you've had Shea Langoliers be able to supply 8+ home runs. He's giving you a little bit more average than he did a season ago, and when it comes to some of these guys, you've had JJ Bleday and company have a little bit of issue, and now they're dealing with an injury in the infield as right now the second base spot in general, Nick Kurtz and company being down. That means that Luis Urias is probably going to need to step up. Miguel Andor has out with a little bit of ailment as well. He overall for the season hitting about a 295, so I do think that that's going to be hampering the Athletics in this spot. But what is even bigger than that, they are dead last in the big leagues currently in terms of bullpen ERA. Like, they just have not had anything go their way whatsoever. Mason Miller has really regressed from where he was a season ago. Hogan Harris has been able to give you a 3.75 ERA, and among guys that have thrown at least 4 innings, that is the lowest in terms of their bullpen ERAs. Justin Cerner is starting to have his issues. TJ McFarland's dealt with injury, and when he's been out there, he's not necessarily been so great as well. So I do think that you should set a little bit of higher total here, 9.5 or less in on the over 10 or higher, the under. And with the Twins, I'm willing to go up to a minus 155 on that money line, even money on the run line, and plus 157 or higher. Looking at the Athletics, 925, 926 on the betting board. The Pittsburgh Pirates play host to the Houston Astros, as you've got Lance McCullers Jr. on the bump for Houston, and Paul Skeens goes for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a minus 137 to a minus 142 favorite, plus 120 to plus 129. That number on Houston with 7.5. The total over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And for Skeens and company, I did set the Pirates at a minus 135 on the money line. Right now, in terms of that initial FanDuel run line, you're probably not going to be getting the fair value that you deserve on it. Right now, I'm seeing it at a plus 140. I would need to be getting at least a plus 160. Honestly, I would probably rather take a run at like a minus 160 with the Astros than anything else, because this Pittsburgh Pirates team, they're just not putting up offense. Now, over the last 2 weeks after they had that stretch where they won 26 straight games with 4 runs or fewer, it's been a little bit better for them. But still, it's a Pittsburgh Pirates team that has 2 guys that are giving you north of 4 home runs this season. Andrew McCutchen is up to approximately 4 home runs this season, but I mean, you've had Oneil Cruz be able to supply 12 home runs. He's giving you about a 340 to a 350 on base, and then Brian Reynolds has been able to supply a little bit of the deep ball. He's been up to 7 home runs this season, but not really hitting for as much average, hitting at 240. You expect a little bit more there. Adam Frazier has been able to move the line, give you about a 320 on base, and then McCutchen, I mentioned before, 370 on base, but you've had so many guys they've tried to mix and match with, and it just has not worked, like a Jared Trollo, Tommy Pham, Henry Davis, Andy Rodriguez, all these guys hitting at 215 or lower, so that has not been tremendous. And what else is not tremendous is his bullpen. It's Sandy Rainey. Well, he made it rainery against the San Diego Padres as he gave up a bunch of runs there. Colin Holderman is on the injured list after posting a 9 ERA. David Benhart is starting to round into form, but he and Brian Barucki still north of a 4.3 ERA, so got some issues there. And with regards to this Astros bullpen, they've been one of the best in all of baseball. Brian King is starting to regress a little bit, but still has a sub 3.5 ERA. Brian Abreu has been rock solid. Steven Oker, Josh Hader, all these guys are giving you a sub 3 ERA. And for the Astros, right around about a league average team in terms of run creation, though. You've got Isaac Paredes now supplying 11 bombs and a 350 on base. Jeremy Pena, Jose Altuve back up to 9 home runs apiece, with Pena hitting above a 300, so that's been solid. Jake Myers is hitting about a 290. You haven't been able to get a ton out of the bottom of the lineup. Jordan Alvarez being on the injured list has been hurting this team a little bit, but that said, if you can find a little bit more out of Christian Walker, 277 on base, and Yunior Diaz about a 270 on base, that'd be rock solid for them. And I do think that for Lance McCullers Jr., going to be a little bit of a rough go of it for him, as he's coming back after spending multiple years not on a big league mound, so that's been a bit of transition for him, and he had a rough go of it in his first 2 starts, but it does feel like McCullers is starting to round into a little bit of better form. Overall for the season, still rocking a 4.89 ERA, but in his 5 starts, he seemingly has improved ever since that second one, which was oh so bad. But in the last 3 starts that he's provided, a combined 5 earned runs. Now, he hasn't necessarily gone super duper deep. It's been across a combined 14 and a third innings, but still, his swing and miss stuff has actually been really good. 12.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 5.5 walks per 9 innings, and he's been getting hit hard with a home run and a half per 9 innings. Shouldn't be as much of an issue against Pittsburgh Pirates, so I did set a little bit of a lower total at a 7.2, because you just know that Paul Skeens is going to do his part. For Paul Skeens, he has been dominant. He is back up north of 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, 215 ERA, 252 fielding dependent, allowing a half home run per 9 innings, only about 2.2 walks per 9, so in on the under. And for the Astros, if I can get a plus 135, I'd be willing to go in there. Minus 135 would be looking at Pittsburgh, but if it was coming to worse, I would probably take a run half here with the Astros. We'll see what things shake out with in the AM, but most likely going to be able to get about a minus 135 on the Pirates. Would be willing to lay that bigger money line to go along with the under. 927, 928 on the card. The Philadelphia Phillies hit the road to facing off against the Toronto Blue Jays, as Bowden Francis is on the bump for Toronto. Cadenas for Sanchez is on the bump for Philadelphia. Philadelphia minus 155 to minus 162 favorite, plus 136 to a plus 140 is that number on Toronto. 8.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and could it be one take shot on Toronto? I set this money line at a minus 137 for Christopher Sanchez. His swing and miss stuff has been very good this year. He's been up to about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but dating back to the beginning of the 2024 campaign, his ERA does go up by north of 8.5 when he's on the road rather than when he is at home. 332 ERA, 335 field dependent this far this season, and he's giving up about 1 home run per 9 innings, but he has given up 3+ runs in 2 out of his last 3 starts, and you do have a guy in Francis that I think a little bit of positivity is due him for him. Last few seasons, he was as lucky as all heck, so there was that aspect of things, but a 5.04 ERA right now, his fielding depends more around a 6.02 as he's given up 2.4 home runs per 9 innings, but has given up a combined 2 runs over the course of his last 2 starts, so that's solid. Now, one of those starts was against the Texas Rangers, who they're just not hitting anyone right now, but I do think that for Bowden Francis, he's also going to be the beneficiary of the fact that his team has the better bullpen, as well as you've got a Toronto Blue Jays team that's had Jeff Hoffman really struggle, but Yimi Garcia has been able to give you some good innings, albeit he has landed on the injured list, so you're going to need to mix and match from there. But Mason Fluharty has been able to give you a sub 3.5 ERA. I've been very impressed by what you've been able to get out of some of these, shall we say, more ancillary guys. Like you've had Mr. Little come up big for the team, as Brandon Little has been able to give you a sub 2.50 ERA. Uriel Rodriguez as a long guy has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA as well. And for the Blue Jays, all of a sudden they're starting to get their offense going. They played every single game to the over in their series against the Athletics, even with Anthony Santander continuing to be useless. He has been providing the team with a 180 average and 5 home runs, and he just landed on the injured list. So that's actually probably a good thing for the team, because you got Ernie Clement, who's able to hit about a 280. Got Boba Shed, Viger Jr., both with 7 to 8 home runs. And both of these guys hitting between a 275 to 285. Though Vlad has been down with the power, so he'll give you about a 390 on base. Addison Barger has been able to give you some good production with a 333 on base. But George Springer of Dalton Varsho with 8 home runs. They're tied for the team lead, and Varsho's tied for the team lead despite the fact that he's missed 35 games this far this season. So that shows you where those power numbers are at. But still, if guys, they're able to move the line. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, they've been dealing with Bryce Harper being out with that elbow issue because he got hit on the elbow with the ball in the series last week, and we have not seen him ever since then. But you do know that Kyle Schwarber is going to be able to give you some production, 400 on base. He's been able to supply the team with 19 home runs. But outside of Harper and Schwarber, not a lot of power on this team. Max Kepler has 6 home runs, and he's the only other guy in the roster with north of 5. JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos, Alec Boehm, along with Trey Turner, have all been able to give you 5 home runs apiece, and Realmuto has been down this year, hitting only about a 223, but other 3 guys have been able to hit at least a 265, including Turner, hitting for about a 300. You've even gotten some good production out of the likes of Umando Sosa, Yohan Rojas, when they've gotten at bats as well. So, interesting circumstance at a plus 138 or higher. Going to be looking at the Phillies on the money line, and did somebody told it at 8.6. Feels like Toronto's starting to come alive with that offense. So, also went on the over, and we're at things up with 929, 930 on the card. The St. Louis Cardinals play out the Kansas City Royals. Michael Lorenzen is on the bum for the Royals, and Andre 3000 Palante is on the bum for the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals minus 137 to minus 142 favorites, plus 120 to plus 128. Then number on Kansas City, 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. And I did set the Royals at a plus 135. So we're going to see what we're going to be getting in terms of these money line prices. If we could get down to a minus 135, I would be willing to lay that number with the St. Louis Cardinals. And right now, if you're looking to lay run F with St. Louis, this is the initial FanDuel opener. In terms of that run line, you're going to be getting that at a plus 146. If I could get closer to a plus 150, which I think I should, I would be willing to take a shot there for Andre Palante. Has been a guy that I just have not been a stand for whatsoever. As for Palante, he really doesn't do anything other than try to keep the ball in the yard, and he hasn't even done that this season. 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 3.5 walks, 6 strikeouts per 9, 423 ERA, but a 473 fielding dependent. So I've got my trepidations there. But Michael Lorenzen over the last few seasons has also been one of the most lucky pitchers in all of baseball, and I'm not a fan of his. 433 ERA, close to a 451 fielding dependent, 7.5 strikeouts, 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and currently he is, I believe, leading the American League in wild pitches. So that's not great. He has given up at least 3 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts, albeit 1 or 2 of those runs were unearned runs. But when it comes to the Royals, you're just also not getting a lot of offense. They're in the bottom 4 in the big leagues in terms of overall run creation because Bobby Witt Jr. has been very much down with regards to power numbers. He's still hitting right around about a 300 or so, but you just expect a little bit more out of him. As a matter of fact, he's slid down to a 285 with regards to that average with 6 bombs. Vinny Pasquantino, 8 home runs. He's hitting about a 255, so getting a bit of something there. Miguel Garcia hitting above a 300 with 5 bombs. You do like that. Drew Waters, Kyle Isbell at the bottom of the fold, both hitting at least a 275, but just not a lot of power and not a lot of consistency, though. I will say for the Royals, they're a top 8 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. You've had a lot of guys step up in this bullpen as You've been able to get really good production out of Steven Cruz, Lucas Ursadge, Carlos Aceves. All three of these guys give you at least a 2 ERA, if not better. Jonathan Bolin has been turning into a little bit of a long guy for the team. John Schreiber has been a little bit up and down, but overall it's been pretty rock solid. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, after a rough start to the season, their bullpen is very much rounding into form. Ryan Elsley has been looking like one of the better closers in all big leagues once again. Now the team is right around about 18th in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. As Jojo Romero had a rough start to the season, but he's been a little bit better for the team recently. You've been able to get good production out of the likes of a John King, who's been able to give you a sub-4 ERA. You've also been able to have Phil Matone step up and give you a sub-3 ERA as well. And then when you take a look at the lineup, just not a lot of power out of these guys, as well as you've got Nolan Arenado, Wilson Contreras, both give you 6 home runs, and both are just way down from where they have been in past years. Both of these guys hitting below 245. Though Mason Winn is hitting at 275. Same with Alec Burleson, Lars Nootbaar, 350 on base, 8 home runs. So you do like what you're seeing there, and I do think that for the St. Louis Cardinals team, they're going to be able to get a little bit more offense moving forward, especially with Brendan Donovan hitting about a 325. So in this circumstance, I did set a little bit of higher total. I did set my total at an 8.4. Here at the 8.5, I don't trust in the Royals to play an over for you. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under, and for St. Louis, willing to go up to minus 135 on that money line. And that'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSIN family of podcasts. A big thanks to our good friend Ben Wilson, who does great work here at VSIN. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like to hear from his fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUnit_81. Keep in mind, LRCM, name does not matter, so per usual, please just send these into the timeline. Otherwise, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast, provide that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, which means I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.